Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the 22nd Annual Needham Healthcare Conference. My name is David Saxon. I'm an analyst on the MedTech Equity Research team here at Needham and Company. With me today is VitalConnect's CEO, Peter Van Haur. In terms of the format this afternoon, this is going to be a fireside chat. We do have some slides available if necessary. So we're going to jump into questions in just a second. If you do have any questions that you'd like to ask, you can submit them electronically through the Needham conference portal, or you can feel free to email them to me at dsaxon@needhamco.com, and I'll do my best to fit them in. So Peter, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Maybe to start, I wanted to kind of hear more about the VitalCore processor. I think that's kind of the crux of the VitalConnect platform. So maybe just talk about, the VitalCore processor, the technology, and kind of how it's enabling the remote monitoring platform.
Yeah, and David, what the viewership doesn't know, we went back and forth of whether or not slides would be appropriate, and I didn't know what you were going to ask me. And sure enough, the first question was around technology and the VitalCore processor. And we have a slide to really help to explain the technology and what really, in my opinion, is the secret sauce behind what makes VitalConnect number one, very much different than all other remote patient monitoring technologies out there, but it's really the engine for what drives our capabilities. And let me explain a little bit about what VitalCore processor is and what it's designed to do and how we're actually seeing the results of this in the marketplace. At first, would be remiss not to make mention of our founder, Dr. Nursi Nazari. It's really his brilliant mind and his genius that essentially put the VitalCore technology into production. And it's his background as a technologist and having a strong background in chip manufacturing and data processing from a very successful exit when he led all of technology at Marvell. He's taken that experience and that technological understanding and moving data from point A to point B, and he's brought it into healthcare. And what the VitalCore processor does is essentially allows us to move data. At the core, VitalConnect is a data processing company. We just happen to move data from the patient, and the data being vital signs, through the cloud and ultimately to a physician or to other caregivers to help monitor patients. What the VitalCore processor is an ASIC chip. So it's an application-specific integrated circuit. And what that means is that the product or the technology, the chip, has a very specific application for a very specific task and proprietary to a very specific company, being VitalConnect. And that application is monitoring patients. The task is monitoring vital signs. And clearly and obviously, the proprietary nature of the technology is for VitalConnect only and VitalConnect alone. We are the only people that have access to this VitalCore processor. The genius behind this is that the human body is low frequency, but draws a lot of power. So when you think about the heart rate, you think about the respiratory rate. In technological terms, the heart beats, every second. Respiratory rate, a patient breathes every second or so. It's actually very slow in technological terms. In technology, think about milliseconds of time. In the human body, it's very low frequency, but the precision of monitoring a single second heartbeat in the QRST interval takes a lot of power, and it drains a lot of power. So trying to combine the power necessary to monitor a very low frequency but highly precise measurement on multiple vital signs for a long period of time without running out of battery power was the technological feat. And so VitalCore processor is a low consumption, low frequency, high power chip enabling technology that allows us to monitor live streaming ECG, heart rate variability, respiratory rate, core body temperature, the posture of the patient, the activity of the patient and has a technology in here that will actually detect the fall of the patient. Technology has helped to deliver us 11 different FDA approvals, has over 100 intellectual properties, 9 material patents that we believe separate us from the competition and really create that moat from others trying to do this, copy this, or try to technologically advance something similar. And that's really what the VitalCore processor is all about. And it's really what differentiates us from the competition from a technological perspective, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, that's really great background. So, I mean, you're using this technology to kind of target a few different applications within healthcare. I think the first and largest part of the business right now, at least, is cardiac or ambulatory cardiac monitoring, I should say. So maybe just talk about that market. You know, what are some of the macro drivers there, and how you've incorporated the VitalCore technology into your product, the Vital Patch, and kind of how you're positioned relative to some of the competition out there.
Yeah. So there's no secret if you spend time looking at the ambulatory cardiac monitoring space that VitalConnect has certainly arrived. We are squarely involved in the conversation with ambulatory cardiac monitoring, and it's the capability of the VitalCore processor that really allows us to do that with the capability of live streaming ECG combined with additional vital signs and biometric parameters that we offer to patients. Taking a step back in the development of VitalConnect from a historical perspective, sometimes it's interesting to folks to learn that we really did not have an interest in the early days of getting into the ambulatory cardiac monitoring space. The original thesis of the organization, and it's still a goal that we have, and in fact, we're commercializing in some of these markets as we speak today. But the original thesis of the organization was to take the power of the VitalCore processor and the breadth of what we were able to monitor on the patient on one wearable device, and to create the experience of an intensive care unit-like environment, but outside the four walls of the hospital. So you'd be able to monitor the patient holistically with multiple vital signs, multiple biometric parameter readings, but do that outside of the four walls of the hospital, allowing the patient to receive care or rehab more comfortably in other areas than the hospital. And when I came to the company in 2019, it was at the time when Nursing Azari was moving on from his role as CEO and becoming the executive chairman of the board, and it was time to bring on a more medical device experience commercial CEO as compared to a very talented and experienced technologist. I recognized right off the bat that, yes, the holistic monitoring of patients is something that the VitalCore processor and the Vital Patch has capability to do. But while we continue to develop and get into those additional adjacencies, which we are in today now, we can also enter into a very large and expanding market where our technology, in my opinion, has some significant differentiation capabilities and already established reimbursement. And so we made the decision as a company to get into the ambulatory cardiac monitoring space in January of 2021. I mean, if you look back at when we launched the technology in January of 2021, we monitored 40 patients that month. We then launched the mobile cardiac telemetry offering, which rounded out both sides of the service. There's the connected care, which is mobile cardiac telemetry and cardiac event monitoring, which our technology offers. And there's also the non-connected care, which is more traditionally known as Holter monitoring and extended Holter monitoring. And we got into the mobile cardiac telemetry space in May of 2021. And that first month we launched, we serviced 40 patients. And here we sit 26, 27 months later in closing out March, where we were averaging 467 patients per day. So since the launch of the technology 25, 26 months ago to the point we're at today, we have grown this business from month to month perspective, 10% sequentially every single month. since we launched the technology. And you look at the jump off point from Q4 to Q1, there's actually an even bigger jump going from Q4 to Q1. And we see those growth trends continuing into 2023 as we continue to commercialize and launch this technology. Now, a lot of folks ask what the differentiation is around this product, and there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons that we feel as though there's a great adoption for our technology. And I would like to say off the bat that I have a large amount of respect for all the competitors that we have in the space and their ability to really blaze a trail from the development of traditional monitoring to Holter monitoring to extended Holter monitoring to, we believe, VitalConnect taking it to that next level, which is 100% cloud-based on a wearable device that offers live streaming across all modalities with a wearable technology that has very high compliance rates. The ability to add additional vital signs such as respiratory rate, biometric parameter readings such as fall detection, which is an indication of a syncopal event in the electrophysiology environment. And we believe that we're taking the next leap forward in the frontier of developing a more advanced way to monitor patients in a remote fashion, not only with cardiac monitoring, but beyond that into multiple other adjacencies. But this has been our experience in the ambulatory cardiac monitoring space. We're very proud of it. We see the adoption occurring at a very rapid rate, and we see this continuing into the remainder of 2023.
Yeah, that's great. So you kind of hit on it, but the Vital Patch can toggle between different modalities, which as far as I know, I mean, that's very differentiated relative to, competitive patches. So I wanted to ask, what the feedback specifically around that capability has been. I'd imagine, it streamlines workflows. It's good from a working capital perspective for customer accounts. Any anecdotal feedback on what you're hearing from, new and existing accounts?
Yeah, in this space, what I'm learning is there's a lot of sophistication, and then there's a lot of grassroots important features of technologies that matter, and they merge together to make a holistic offering that wins the day. When you average all of those components together for a complete offering of cardiac monitoring service. There's the very sophisticated aspects of this technology, which is your algorithms and your diagnostic reporting and the cloud-based services and things of that nature. And then there's the less sophisticated, simple things such as ease of use and compliance and efficiency. And our technology, being what we refer to as an all-in-one device, offers the very first step of simplicity, ease of use, and efficiency for the physician staff, the patient, and then ultimately leads to a better experience for everybody involved. So it's well documented that there are 4 modalities in the cardiac monitoring service line. There's the 24, 48-hour Holter, there's the extended Holter, there's the mobile cardiac telemetry, and the cardiac event monitor. And depending on what organization and what company you're speaking to, there may be 2, 3, and 4 devices that are necessary to complement the full offering across those modalities. What VitalConnect brings to the marketplace is a single patch that is used for all modalities, for all patients. And based upon the physician's needs of live monitoring, short-term monitoring, extended wear monitoring, or cardiac event monitoring, we simply change the modality in the cloud. So the physician puts the same patch on every single patient. We then take the physician's intake form based upon the level of service that they want and require for that patient and provide that service through the cloud, which is a very significant change compared to using a different physical device for every single different type of modality. And what we're finding in the marketplace is that's an attractive offering that's moving share. And that's something that physicians are willing to make a change in practice behavior on that one simple decision before we even get to the differentiation qualities that we have from a clinical outcomes perspective, speed of diagnostic perspective, and other areas that we believe will differentiate.
Okay, got it. And then just, looking at this chart on the left, I mean, that inflection into the first quarter, I know iRhythm had some issues with their MCT labeling late in 22. I'd imagine that, presented some opportunity for you to gain share. Is that part of it? And if not, like, what is driving that inflection, and kind of how durable, do you think this, stronger growth really is?
Yeah, I'm not going to make a comment regarding my competitor and thoughts around their technology. I think that the iRhythm volume has been impressive over the years that they've been in business, and again, I think that they've blazed a nice trail. What I will say is we have been able to deliver a very significant growth curve in both mobile cardiac telemetry as well as extended Holter monitoring with a very, very small and limited resource sales force. And the reason that I bring that up is many of the competitors that we're competing with outnumber us 3-1, 4-1 in some of the cities that we're competing in. And despite that competitive pressure, we're still winning. And we're winning at a pretty good rate, as you can see by the graph. 100% of the numbers that you see on this graph is 100% share capture. And that share capture is from the folks that we're competing with. I'm not going to make any correlations to technological limitations or some of the gaps that maybe have been public record. I don't know enough about them to say that. What I can say is, with or without that backdrop of information, we were taking share before, and I think we're going to continue to take share after, because of the significant differences that we offer the marketplace. And I don't think that jump off had anything to do with a unfortunate incident for a competitor that I'm sure they'll bounce back from, but from a simple fact that I know we took a pretty sizable couple of centers at the same time, and I know where that growth is coming from, and I know that we have some more in the pipeline to continue those jumps moving forward.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then the graph on the right, is that total monitor patches, or is that a specific modality?
That's total. That's a total number across all modalities.
Okay.
On a daily basis. So on an average day in March, across the 30 days of March, or however many days there were, we service 467 unique new patients a day of some.
Okay, got it. Yeah, got it. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the majority of the mix is MCT. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but where do you see that mix shaking out longer term?
Yeah, I think, look, longer term, as we grow in size and scale, and our volumes continue to grow, what we will see is a relatively similar product mix as some of the leading mobile cardiac telemetry companies have performed at, that have come before us. And the reason I say that is we do not decide as a sales force or a marketing effort what modality a physician ultimately prescribes. It's driven by multiple factors. It's driven by the symptoms that a patient has and what's appropriate. It's driven by coverage of care, and it's ultimately driven by the prescription written by the physician. Now, we believe that the mobile cardiac telemetry service of live monitoring with oversight of a independent diagnostic lab for a 30-day period of time is the most effective way to monitor a patient for a conduction disorder or some arrhythmia. We believe that. We think that physicians generally believe that. That's why mobile cardiac telemetry is the fastest growing segment of the group. But with that said, there's a significant amount of extended Holter and other modalities that are out there that we're taking share. And so despite the ramp that we're seeing in mobile cardiac telemetry, which is very, very fast, we're also taking extended Holter business very, very quickly because of some of the significant differences that we offer. So both of our businesses are growing very, very quickly. The extended Holter business is larger, so the units seem to be growing faster, but the revenues are growing a lot faster in mobile cardiac telemetry because it's a more it's higher revenue driving modality. But for VitalConnect, about 65% of all prescriptions written are intended to be a mobile cardiac telemetry. And in some instances, based on ICD-9 codes and other requirements, they get what's known as downgraded to the appropriate modality of cardiac event monitor. But of our physician base, about 65% of the prescriptions are intended to be mobile cardiac telemetry. The physician believes that a VitalConnect mobile cardiac telemetry device is the appropriate modality for the patient, what the patient presents themselves as symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. All right. I want to switch gears. You have a couple of other different, I guess, markets you're going after. The inpatient expansion, I think, is what you're calling it. Yep. Maybe just talk about that opportunity and what the business model is there.
Yeah, the unique aspect of VitalConnect as a company, as a technology, as a focus commercially is clearly we are squarely in the ambulatory cardiac monitoring space, and we are focused on becoming the number one provider of ambulatory cardiac monitoring technology in that space. And I think we have the technology, the team, and the capability of doing it. What makes us unique as an organization and as a technology is our technology is capable of doing so much more than simply an ECG recording or an ECG stream to a cloud. That's very sophisticated and it's novel, but our technology is doing that and 7 additional vital signs and biometric parameter monitoring simultaneously, which uniquely qualifies us for multiple adjacent markets with the same technology. And similar to deciding that we were going to go into ambulatory cardiac monitoring, we made a decision to go in a parallel path in the inpatient monitoring space. As we continue to grow cardiac, we are now stepping foot into what we're referring to as the inpatient monitoring marketplace. I'll share a couple of statistics with you on this space. As it stands today, 33 million people will be admitted to the healthcare system in America on an annualized basis. So those are 33 million people admitted to the hospital on an annual basis. 7% of those admitted patients will have some adverse event while they are in the hospital that was unintended and preventable. These are things such as falls. These are hospital-acquired infections, overdose or underdose of drugs. And many of these could be avoided if the monitoring of the patient was occurring. But the reality is, for the majority of patients today that sit in the some 800,000 beds across the United States that are lying in the hospital being recovering from whatever reason they are there, things will happen to them. And nurses are on a schedule of every 8 hours or every 6 hours, sometimes up to 12 hours. They're checked on every 8 or 10, 12 hours. It's known as Q4, Q6, Q8 vitals. Every 8 hours, take their vital signs. And the stark reality is, we're seeing this now that we're in the business, is that from one checkpoint to the next checkpoint, things happen. And things happen really, really quickly. But these patients are being monitored. With a VitalConnect platform and a VitalConnect vital patch on a patient's chest lying in a bed in the hospital, we are monitoring them in real time, 24/7, for signs and symptoms of decompensation. These are changes in respiratory rate, changes in heart rate, changes in ECG, changes in activity levels. And all of these different vital signs or leading indicators through predictive analytics that we have on our platform that are telling nurses, telling staff members that a patient that is under their care is going down a path towards decompensation or an event. And we are seeing these events and we are picking up on these events prior to them occurring. And we believe that this is a massive opportunity for VitalConnect, utilizing our technology and unique features that we have, and opening the door to a massive TAM that no other company that we compete with in, say, the cardiac monitoring space has the capability of getting into because of the limitations of the technology, unable to do other vital signs. And so if you look at how we're launching and what we're focused on, similar to the cardiac launch, it's rapidly expanding. We launched in Q2 of 2022, and you can see that the number of patients and the number of pieces of capital, the relay devices that we have deployed is moving in a very nice trajectory up and to the right as we figure out the right workflow, the right blueprint, so we can begin to rinse and repeat this across the United States. The patients are a catch-all. We're looking at monitoring patients for COPD, sepsis, GI bleeds, heart disease. Think about a medical surgical unit where patients are all rehabilitating or resting to get better over the course of 3 to 5 days. We're monitoring these patients in real time for signs and symptoms of adverse events. And we're doing this in a very inexpensive fashion. And the hospitals appreciate this because we're picking up on what otherwise would be costly outcomes. We're expanding capacity in the hospital. We're getting the patients up and out of the hospital faster, and we're reducing the labor and the burden on the nursing staff, as we all know, is a problem today with the nursing burden and the overworked staff that we all see in the hospital environment. So we believe this is a major market. We believe that this is a huge opportunity that VitalConnect can uniquely take advantage of. And our launch to date and the success that we've had is showcasing that. Still early days, we're 3 quarters in, but the trajectory is in the right direction. And I believe that we're going to continue to see this throughout 2023.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. I mean, I can't do the math off the, the chart, but it looks like utilization, number of patients per installed beds. I mean, it looks like that's trending fairly well. So, it does look like you're seeing some really strong traction. And I just want to, make the point. So like, you're essentially competing against connected beds, like a Stryker bed, but those are much more expensive than what, you're offering. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say it's 2 things. Number one, it's significantly more expensive, and it doesn't have the sophistication that our technology does. So you're paying more, and you're not getting the full utility of what we can provide in a simple wearable vital patch. So it's twofold there. We don't necessarily go into hospitals and say we compete with the bed companies. That's not our desire. We really believe we're blazing a new trail here. We believe that in a utopia, my vision is that every patient lying in any hospital bed across America is wearing a vital patch device. It's that important because 7% chance of something happening when you're admitted to the hospital. Why not wear the seatbelt? For the inexpensive nature of our technology, if you have a 7% chance of having a problem by simply getting admitted to the hospital, you might as well be monitored and watched for signs and symptoms of those problems happening.
Yeah, that makes sense. So a $6 billion TAM. I mean, I think that's larger than the ambulatory cardiac monitoring TAM. So how are you balancing those 2 opportunities? I mean, both very significant. And are these 2 different sales forces, or how are you, really attacking the 2 different opportunities?
Yeah, we're being very, very careful to not disrupt anything with our great success with ambulatory cardiac monitoring as a general rule. So what we've done is we've carved the businesses into 2 units. So we have our cardiac monitoring team, which is led by a traditional leader with a management group and then a traditional sales force. And then we have our remote patient monitoring team that's led by a general manager with a team under him that they're managing the development efforts and the commercialization of that business. And they talk to each other, and clearly there's a lot of overlap. Certainly a cardiologist is seeing patients in the hospital, and hospitalized patients might end up on a VitalConnect patch outside of the hospital. But we want our salespeople that are selling ambulatory cardiac monitoring for now, laser focused on ambulatory cardiac monitoring. And we want our hospital-based team laser focused on the hospital-based and the different unique nature of the sales process and the commercialization there. Until we scale much larger, we'll figure out where we go from there. But right now, we want to be very laser sharp, be very focused on both sides of those businesses, not distracting from either one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. And then, as if that's not enough, I think you have another opportunity, the hospital at home. So I guess, maybe talk about that opportunity. I forget where you are at, from a kind of, commercial perspective, but yeah, maybe just talk about that.
Yeah, the hospital at home space is something that's been on our radar since before my tenure, and I started in 2019. In fact, my 4-year anniversary here at VitalConnect is coming up, and the hospital at home thesis again was the original thesis of the company. If you think back of why this technology was originally designed, and the thought process behind the whole platform was, how do we create the monitoring capabilities that you would receive in a hospital, but allow the patient to rehabilitate and get better at home? And there was a study that was published at a Mass General that took a look at this, and what they found was that there was both a clinical significant outcome as well as a financial outcome. Clinically, the patients rehabilitated better, and there's better clinical outcomes than compared to the hospital environment. And financially, there was close to a 20 or 30% cost reduction with the same group of patients that received care at home versus the hospital. So we know, based on clinical evidence and studies that have looked at this, that patients rehabilitate better at home. They sleep, they eat, they walk around, they move around better, and that's good for them. And we also know it's less expensive. It's certainly less expensive to care for a patient at home than it is in the four walls of a hospital. So we know all this. The problem is the market has been slow to develop. And if you ask a lot of people that are trying to figure out the hospital at home secret sauce, what they'll tell you is that it's a great idea. We all know that the cost benefits are there. We all know the clinical benefits are there, but it's really figuring out the workflow and who's in charge of the patient and who monitors the patient back at the hospital setting, and how do all the workflows come together. Some are more advanced than others. Some are coming along. And what I'll say about VitalConnect is we've partnered with the highest or the most advanced systems in America that are doing this. They have found our technology to be perfectly suited for hospital at home and continue to use it. We've been published by these facilities, and you can see a lot of the work that's been done. Once this market expands and becomes mainstream, which is when the healthcare system will figure out the workflow, VitalConnect will be standing there ready and willing to help all of these patients. I think this is a situation where our technology has actually leapfrogged the development of the market. So the market needs to catch up to our technology. And once it does, our technology will be there to meet it and to serve these patients that are in need to receive hospital care at home. But it is something that we have on our futures. But in the current state, our main focus right now is executing and continuing the trajectory of cardiac ambulatory monitoring. Number two is we're launching, and we are successful. We're seeing adoption in the inpatient space. And then thirdly and fourthly is hospital at home, transitional care management, clinical trial work, and other areas of interest that some folks ask us to work with them on. And we're happy to do it because our technology is very versatile and provides utility for so many.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. I want to ask a quick question back on the cardiac monitoring. I know ACC was in March. I don't know if you went there, but if so, maybe just talk about, physician feedback on the platform and any key takeaways from that conference.
Yeah, I unfortunately was unable to make it to ACC this year. I'm happy that I'll be attending HRS this year. Come, I think it's May 19th, so I'll be attending HRS. I'll be able to see a lot of our physician partners and customers. So I can't speak to what was said about our platform necessarily at ACC, but I can speak to what is said about our platform. Generally speaking, when we showcase it to physicians, there is an aha moment about VitalConnect. When you can sit in an office with a physician or have a cup of coffee at a cafeteria with a physician, and you're wearing a Vital patch under your shirt or suit, and you flip your computer open and you turn it to the physician, you say, here's my live streaming ECG, respiratory rate, body posture, activity, core body temperature, etc. And it's live streaming right in front of them on a computer. And you say, this is what you would have and what you have capability to have with your patients in ambulatory cardiac monitoring. That's something they've never seen before. That's a platform capability that didn't exist prior to January of 2021, when VitalConnect introduced this to the marketplace. And, to give an analogy as to what I believe we're doing as compared to another market is, we're taking the Blockbuster chain and we're moving to Netflix. You had one way of doing things, and now with a click of a button, you're live streaming the information. You have it at your fingertips when you want to see it immediately right in front of you. That's Netflix. You want to watch a show, you push a button. You want to see your patient's ECG, you flip open your computer screen, you push a button, you're seeing it in real time right then at your fingertips. That's what physicians see. It's the aha moment, and they are really blown away by some of the capabilities that we have from a technological perspective.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's really great to hear. So kind of just to summarize, I mean, you got this really proprietary, differentiated technology at the core, the vital core processor being kind of the foundation. You've got a near-term opportunity with an established cardiac monitoring market, kind of an intermediate opportunity with inpatient monitoring, kind of replacing or supplementing connected beds, and then this longer-term opportunity of hospital at home transitional care. Is that a fair kind of summary?
Yeah, I mean, we could stack on the opportunities, but the pitfall that we could run into as VitalConnect, and we need to be very careful about this, is we are asked to do so many various things because of what the technology's capabilities are. We need to stay very disciplined, very focused, and very intentful on what we're doing. So cardiac monitoring, remote patient monitoring for the inpatient that needs care, and then to a third degree, hospital at home, transitional care management, and those types of use cases. And that is the order in which we've launched, and that's the order in which I think you'll see the waves of growth of VitalConnect. I think of it as cardiac is coming in, inpatient monitoring is following it, transitional care management, hospital at home will be soon to follow that wave, and there will be more to come as we continue to look out at the landscape of remote patient monitoring and really expose to the world what the Vital Core processor can do. Because where we're competing right now, we're probably only exposing 10% to 15% of its utility. We can really, really begin to offer the remote patient monitoring space some significant changes once we get to the right scale and the right resources. Why I've been speaking to a lot of people here at Needham today.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right, well, we're at time, so I think we'll have to wrap it there. But Peter, thanks so much. It's always great catching up with you, and obviously looking forward to following your success. So
well, thanks, Dave.
Yeah, really great.
Thank you, and thanks to the whole Needham team. You folks here at Needham are a class act, and I just want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of the group. Thank you so much.